How do you promote the revival of an aged series, a series that's been dormant for over 20 years, when technology has changed dramatically? Is a reboot the best form for a new entry? Or do you create something drastically different with a similar story entwined? These are the questions that Nintendo needed to ask themselves before they could even fathom any success with the Kid Icarus series. But the journey began far before Nintendo could ask themselves that. It all started way back in the 1980s. The 1980s were known for its bold style, clothes, the Terminator, Michael Jackson, and the rise of Nintendo's main plumber and big ape, Mario and Donkey Kong. The 80s would see rise to Nintendo's flagship series, Mario, Donkey Kong, Zelda, and Metroid. But there was a series left dormant immediately after its release, treated to a quick spa day and sent to a graveyard, and that series was Kid Icarus. That's right, the series about the flightless, small, and random angel. Who would have thought the series could last? Not Nintendo, apparently. Taking assets from the Metroid series and pushing them into a new game saw the release of Kid Icarus in 1986. A follow-up met with shortcomings left the series on a detrimental hiatus for nearly 2 decades. Kid Icarus is the story of Pit, a flightless angel. I don't really understand how you could be an angel without the ability to fly, but anyways. The story takes place across the underworld, Earthrealm, and Skyworld as you play as Pit, a young angel gifted with Palutena's powers, receiving a bow and arrow. Of course, the only possible weapons that could be useful when fighting Medusa. Set on his mission to take down Medusa, Kid Icarus for the NES is most often remembered for its difficulty. Most players will agree the first stage is the most difficult, and honestly that's because you have nothing yet. Your health is very limited, you have weak weapons, and it makes it difficult to progress. But it's because we're just underpowered, and we don't take our time to complete sections slowly. So get good, kid. The game launched on the NES in 1986, smack in the middle of the life cycle of the NES. Kid Icarus was up against some tough competition, with 2 legendary titles launching earlier that year, The Legend of Zelda and Metroid. 2 of the most iconic pillars for Nintendo. As the game launched and succeeded in general sales, it appeared Nintendo didn't know where to take the series next. They tossed him, and didn't even release the next game in the series in Japan until the 3DS. The next game, Kid Icarus of Myth and Monsters, released in the golden decade of gaming, the 90s. The 90s was an era consumed with reinventing the wheel. For gaming, some of the most prestigious titles released, redefining what a game could be. Zelda, with Ocarina of Time, showed what an open-world 3D world could be, while Super Mario 64 showed how platformers could thrive in the new dimension. With Kid Icarus of Myth and Monsters, Nintendo would make the logical decision, right? And release the title on the most advanced console yet, for the Game Boy. This move completely stalemated the series. Having some new features in the game was really the only redefining that was done for the series. From 1991 onward, Pit and the Kid Icarus series fell into obscurity, being relegated only to cameos, until one director poured his soul, his heart, into the new Kid Icarus experience for the next generation. Instead of Nintendo creating anything new with the Kid Icarus franchise, there were multiple titles that used the characters as cameos. The cameos started with Pit in 1989, Captain N. It was his first crossover, but definitely would not be his last. As time went on, he was brought among others in the WarioWare franchise. In fact, he almost became as commonplace in WarioWare as Wario's farts, showing up in 4 of the WarioWare titles. Leading slightly away from cameos, Pit showed up in iterations of the Smash Bros. Series. His first, and probably most unappealing cameo, was in the trophy of Super Smash Bros. Melee. Here, we see the original art from the European version of Kid Icarus in a 3D render. And to be pretty honest, it's really not that great of a trophy. It does convey his original design, but it's very unappealing. The design is very generic, almost like it's just a random angel. There was nothing redone to update his design for nearly 13 years. It's in much need of a facelift. The most notable asset from this trophy is the description, and here it ends saying, "Will Pit ever fight again?" It's obscure, it's strange, and could it be hinting at a new Kid Icarus game? Or simply making light of how his status has fallen. Though, we got our answer in 2008 with Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Pit returned as a fighter. He sported a new slick design, updated for the next generation hardware, showing off a new hairstyle and hair color going from orange to brown. He has a new toga with gold pieces to highlight his role as the right hand to Lady Palutena. His face is no longer generic lines. His eyes are nice deep blue and overall look like he's aged up some from his previous incarnations. This was the last cameo the Kid Icarus series had before the true revival took place, a short few years away in 2012. Putting Pit into Smash Bros. Brawl was probably one of the best decisions that was made to lead up to the Kid Icarus series returning, and I, like many others, this was the first time we took control of Pit. In 2010, Nintendo forged a new direction with Pit helming the reins to bring it in. A monumental moment for Nintendo. As the sun set on the DS, the rise of the 3DS was coming. In the year of 2009, Nintendo announced a new venture titled Project Sora. The little information we received was that Project Sora would be unlike anything that we'd ever seen before, and sure enough, it was. In 2010's E3 broadcast, the late Mr. Iwata revealed not only the newest iteration in Nintendo handhelds, but the first game shown for the console. We had never seen a DS game look quite like this. It was bright, it had full 3D models, and it had cinematics like a Wii game. The graphics on this handheld were detailed beyond anything Nintendo has done before. It was truly a revolution in handheld gaming for Nintendo. In its title, Kid Icarus Uprising. While it would take 2 years from its unveiling, it was time well spent. The legendary director, Masahiro Sakurai, took the reins on Kid Icarus, knowing he had to dedicate everything he had into developing the game. Since it was first shown for the 3DS, you already know they needed to add every feature possible to the game. Kid Icarus Uprising boasts many modes and does in fact use almost every feature of the 3DS, aside from gyro control. There's augmented reality for the AR cards. The AR is used, the camera's used, the stylus, the street pass feature, the spot pass feature, the multiplayer. Augmented reality is used for the AR cards. These were included in the big box version of the game. You can display enemies, allies, locations, and weapons. Set them up and then let them do battle. With over 400 AR cards, you could spend thousands of dollars trying to get them all. Kid Icarus used the built-in pedometer, earning play coins you could exchange for eggs and idle toss to get new models for the model viewer. These models are in high detail and in most cases let you look in 360 degrees, letting you see more than just the back of the characters. There's also a huge challenge board, extremely similar to the Smash Bros. Challenge board, with specific challenges needing to be completed to uncover the image below, providing plenty of replayability. Just know, I'd be lying if I said having so many challenges didn't feel slightly overwhelming, but I imagine when it's finished, the feeling of accomplishment will be hugely deserved. Just like Sakurai said, Project Sora, as we know as Kid Icarus Uprising, is unlike anything we've ever seen before. Focusing heavily on story, Kid Icarus blows almost all other first-party Nintendo games out of the water, especially from this time period. See, story mode features full voice acting and actually has a story. You might be thinking, well, Nintendo has stories in Legend of Zelda and Metroid, but let's be honest, these stories are mainly in the background. The gameplay is in the forefront on those titles. In Kid Icarus Uprising, the story and gameplay are on the same caliber, so let's focus on each of those individually. Kid Icarus Uprising features a bulky story. Though it tends to tread old ground, there is plenty here to dive into. The world is launched into chaos with the resurrection of Medusa. Hearing of her return, Lady Palutena sends Pit to stop her, though this time, Pit will meet unlikely allies and fight new foes never seen before. Every time you launch into a chapter, Lady Palutena almost always gives a breakdown of the current situation and objective, making the game perfect for the pick up and play method. Something truly unique in this game is the constant of conversation. Flying through a battlefield, running on the back of a Hydra, or moments before a boss fight, characters are always conversating. It's a true highlight.
Of course. From what I've heard, it grants any single wish. As you might imagine, it's quite sought after.
Having these conversations take place and characters show up on the bottom screen keep you almost overstimulated, but they only pop up enough to keep you engaged the whole chapter. All the dialogue being spoken is combined wonderfully with the voices given to them. Voice acting is superb here, and it shows a side of Nintendo we've only begun to see with the Switch. Having a story of amazing caliber and voice acting to boot is truly remarkable. All of this, and on the 3DS, makes it even more so. So when this is meshed with the gameplay, harmony is created. Kid Icarus was directed by Sakurai, which is a blessing and a curse. Gameplay sees Pit spending the first almost 5 minutes of every chapter flying. You travel through battlefields, mazes, or even try to outfly a bomb. Pit can't fly on his own, so Palutena takes control of his wings, and all you need to do is focus on your third-person shooting, flying up and down, left and right, and launching attacks on the underworld army, while dodging obstacles and making way to your objective. It's an addictive gameplay loop, wanting you to make your high score even better. Gives you tons of replayability. Gameplay on the ground is very similar, except here you control Pit in full 3D space. Now, I do need to mention the bonus edition of gameplay, Carpal Tunnel. But in all seriousness, the game requires one hand to hold the system, one to move the reticle, and one to move Pit. So you can kinda understand how that's pretty difficult. Nintendo had a great idea. Instead of fixing that issue, they decided to give us a stand with the big box version. It's just a 3DS stand and makes things somewhat easier to play the game, so it is a nice addition, but it would have been better if they figured out a different way to let you attack. The gameplay is addicting, and it's like an on-rail shooter in the sky and on the ground. After the defeat of Medusa and Hades, Pit, Palutena, and Dark Pit have all joined the following Smash Bros. Games, but that's all that we've had from the trio. They've been made into amiibo, and many fans have expressed the desire for Kid Icarus to be rebirthed on the Switch. But as of today, we have nothing more than a small mention from Sakurai, and while it does give hope, realistically it doesn't seem like Sakurai wants us to expect Kid Icarus to return anytime soon. So maybe in another 20 years, Pit will return and a brand new outing. But until then, we can only be happy that Pit returned when he did, and even if it's another 20 years before we can take flight, we will be ready to accept Pit's apology once again as we did many years ago.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
Thanks for watching. Till next time.